Kamdar Sahib, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Sir.
sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening, everyone.
सभी को नमस्कार सर।
Good evening to everyone.
सभी को नमस्कार, अधिकारी सर, मंगेश सर,
नमस्कार।
लेले सर,
Robi sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, very good evening, everyone.
विनय सर नमस्कार,
नमस्कार 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 नमस्कार।
रवि सर नमस्कार सर।
Namaskar.
Mangesh, sir, good evening.
Namaste,
Our national
namaste.
president has joined.
Namaste, sir. Namaste.
I think
Huh,
we
sir?
start on time.
या शुरू करना चाहिए।
I had called up NP sir. He said he will join in some time, sir.
He
has
joined,
just
NP sir is
There,
there.
I can see.
हाँ.
Dr. Jay is there. Dr.
Jay
Mangesh
sir.
start कीजिए.
Mangesh,
Welcome,
you have to
President,
change
sir.
your specs.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
गुड इवनिंग।
Good evening.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yogesh, mute everybody except co-host.
Good evening, everybody.
Allow only co-host to.
Okay. Shall we start, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, all. Respected National President Dr. Jayalal sir, Honorary Secretary General Dr. Jayesh Lele sir, our past National President Dr. Vinay Agrawal sir, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar sir, our today's special guest Justice S.C. Kamdar sir, Chairman Hospital Board of India Dr. Sharad Agrawal, all my respected senior leaders and IMA friends. This is the first of its kind webinar organized by IMA Hospital Board of India. And in this first webinar itself, the topic is the most important and practical one through which all of us are going through since last 15 months or so. Many hospitals which are providing the COVID care as a COVID facility, in fact, to the tune of above 80% of the patients are being managed by our own IMA members. That is a fact in the country. While doing so, our hospitals and doctors are going through or irrational things through the local or state administrations, through various notifications, which are very different in various states. Application of these notification again is a subjective, and it is causing a lot of problem and issues for our hospitals. Through IMA Hospital Board of India, we are in the court of law in the High Court of Mumbai, and our today's special guest, Justice Kamdar sir, who is always helpful and very friends with Indian Medical Association. He stands with Indian Medical Association every problem. Sir is handling and fighting that case for us through in the High Court of Mumbai. First, I will request our respected National President, Dr. Jayalal sir, for his presidential address. Over to Jayalal sir.
Thank you, Mangesh, and respected leaders of Indian Medical Association, our beloved past national presidents, Dr. Vinay Agarwal sir, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar, and our HSD, and distinguished leaders of Indian Medical Association Hospital Board, my beloved brother, Chairman Dr. Sharad Agarwal, the veteran leader of Hospital Nursing Home Board of Tamil Nadu, Dr. VVR sir, and my good friend Dr. Narasimha Reddy, Dr. Ajay Singh, and other distinguished leaders. I'm extremely delighted, extremely happy to. It is almost I have achieved something that today our beloved HBI is coming out with an academic seminar, which is a need of the hour. I could see the smile in the face of Dr. Sharad and Dr. Mangesh, and I'm really happy to see this, and I'm looking forward that such important topics will be discussed, and we will be able to do a great job. So all the best. Go ahead, and IMA headquarters is too happy to be a part of this program. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our Secretary General, respected Dr. Jayesh Lele sir, for his guiding address.
I think, thank you, Mangesh, our national president, our past national presidents, Dr. Vinay Agarwal and Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar, who were veterans in HBI, because that is the pioneer I would say that they started HBI. Mangesh, you yourself has also been working very hard. Dr. VVR sir, I met him some time back in Coimbatore, and pioneer of the Tamil Nadu Nursing Home Board, other leaders. I'm very happy that this very important topic is been discussed. In fact, we are getting every day from on WhatsApp message here and there that so much is the charge and all those things. But of course, in that, what is the legal side? That I think our very close friend, senior counsel and retired Justice Sri Kamdar sir only will be able to tell. And of course, then there will be a panel of discussions with Dr. Ravi and Dr. Vinay. I think without wasting any time, I will request Mangesh to start the proceeding so that we should be able to give more time to the discussion portion. And very important, those minutes, I think Mangesh will see to it that the very important points, what we derive, will be circulated through all our emails and WhatsApp. That is more important because right now I can see many members are waiting to be joined, and there are some already on the Facebook. So this is a very important topic pertinent to everything. In fact, Maharashtra was also having similar topic today, but we postponed it. We don't want conflict. So Mangesh, I think you better start at the earliest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request our chairman to give his welcome address, sir. Dr. Sharad Agrawal, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mangesh, and respected National President, Dr. Jayalal sir, HSG, Dr. Lele, Senior Leader, past National President, Dr. Vinay Agarwal sir, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar sir, all the senior leaders and dear friends. This is a very important topic and the pain point of most of the hospital across the country. And we all are, going through this pain, and every states are doing on its own capping of the rates of the COVID treatment. And this is a very burning problem, and we all want a solution. And now we are blessed that we have the retired justice with us for his blessings and guidance, and our senior leaders like Dr. Vinay, Dr. Ravi. So they will put on the light and how should we proceed. And this is very painful that no pandemic is allowed to cap the amount of the treatment. So this is heartening, and I request Dr. Mangesh, as he has set the platform very rightly, to start the proceeding, and I will discuss in detail when I'll come on the as a panelist. Yes, Dr. Mangesh, please start.
Thank you, sir. Welcome all for this webinar. Now, friends, today's topic, which is very practical, as I said before, and every hospital and doctors across the country are going through, whichever the state of India it may be. I will put forth some plethora of the reality facts over here. Just give me a 1 minute, please. I'll share the screen. Yeah, I hope you can see this. So the capping of the charges, fact sheets are almost all states have these COVID treatment charges being capped. The reasoning by the government given is the unaffordability and high out-of-the-pocket expenditure of the people, which is the reference study. Actually, this study was conducted in 2018, but this has been taken by the governments, various governments, as a basis for capping the charges during the COVID treatment. Not only that, they have given out these different states how the charges are for 10 days treatments in COVID. And this has been used as the reasoning for the capping of the charges. Now, in few states, how it is differing, in few states, the fixed rates are for the patients which are referred by the governments, or for those patients who are covered by the government health schemes. For them, this capping is applicable. For the private patients, the capping is not applicable. Whereas in few states, the capping of the charges is applicable to the all patients whoever are getting admitted, whether it is in government or private institute or corporate setup. Government hospital occupancy, as per the study which I mentioned in 2018, is mentioned to be 42%. I am surprised to read this bed occupancy in the government facility. What has been overlooked while the governments, various state governments have capped the charges? During the COVID treatment, various things which are additional than the non-COVID times for the hospitals which have to go through, that is additional human resources, including the triage area, expert staff, infrastructural changes, equipment, PPEs, mask and safety gear, medical oxygen, expensive pharmacy, and exploitation by the during the procurement by various vendors, and the risk of the lives of the medical professionals, which is absolutely overlooked during this capping. Doctors and hospitals, the medical fraternity, they have earned the fame as irresponsible decades during this pandemic, in spite of serving more than 80% of the people of the country in the private facility. The right to health is slapped on the private sector. This is the feeling of entire country, all doctors and private sector hospitals. The acts, these are the various acts which are used by the various state governments, under which the capping has been slapped on the private sector. Number one is the Epidemic Act 1897, Disaster Management Act 2005, Indian Penal Code 1860, Essential Services Act, Nursing Home Act, and Public Trust Act. These are the few pointers which we will be discussing. We have got very great speakers today. One first is our retired Justice, Senior Counsel, Shri Kamdar sir. Second one, very learned and guiding torch for Indian Medical Association, Dr. Vinay Agrawal sir. Third one is a master firebrand, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar sir, who has got solution for every issue whichever we take with him. Fourth one is our own chairman, Dr. Sharad Agrawal, and fifth one is Dr. T. Narasimha Reddy, who has worked a lot in the costing studies which was conducted by IIM Hospital Board of India in the past. The pointers are the legality of the capping charges, right to health delivered through private sector, application of the section 65, 66, which our justice and our chairman will speak about, capping of charges versus the overhead expenses, which is mismatching, capping without backbone scientific study, public outrage is getting misfired at the doctors and the medical fraternity, where right of health is not being delivered by the government. Private healthcare sector is being treated as a scapegoat. Legal aspects and compulsions out of these acts which are being advised by the various state government. So let me welcome our first speaker, who is the Justice, retired Justice Shri S.U. Kamdar sir. He is a senior counsel in Mumbai High Court, and as I said, he is very friendly with IMA, representing Indian Medical Association in most of the legal issues. Welcome, Dr. Kamdar, Shri Kamdar sir. May I request you to deliver your speech on this issue, capping of the hospital charges. Over to Dr. Kamdar sir.
Yes. Thank you very much to all of you for inviting me to give a small speech. I will say that this problem is partly legal and partly medical and partly public interest. Your right as a medical profession and as a medical hospital from Article 19(1)(g) of the Constitution, which permits every person, every citizen, or every person, even if you are not a citizen, to carry on your right, trade, profession, or the business. There is, however, a caveat that under 19(2), the government can enact a legislation by which your right to carry on business, trade, or profession can be regulated or curbed to an extent. For example, right to trade in the liquor. For example, licensing rules which are provided for any business or any trade or any profession. So these are the restrictions which can be imposed. Now let all of you know, and all of you are doctors, you know much more than me, that nobody envisaged this type of catastrophic situation in the world, where the entire country's medical facility will be wanting, will not be sufficient. Undoubtedly, in India, we have a very poor medical record as far as the rural area is concerned, even not to some extent, even to the urban area is concerned. But even in most advanced states like America, like London, or UK, or Germany, or any country, they also found a lot of difficulties in providing medical facilities to the patients who are suffering from COVID-19. Now, let's come to the bare case question of our case of keeping the prices. Now, when you say that your right is there to carry on business is subject to regulatory rights, where a regulation can be enacted for the purpose of regulating the business. Now, in our country, there is a two legislation. One is Epidemic Act and Disaster Management Act, and to an extent, the Essential Commodities Act, Essential Services Act. Now there is a two kinds of price capping which are the concern as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. One is the price of the medicines, which is not within the purview of our discussion today. But there is also an issue that whether the prices of the medicine can be unregulated and any person can charge anything for the medicine or oxygen or anything. Now that is one aspect which I am not going to touch because that is not a part of our subject topic today. Now we are coming to the hospitals and the capping of the charges of the hospitals. Now when you come to the capping of the charges of the hospitals, this is the first time that this capping of the charges of the hospital has been carried out by the government. I think in the whole world, nowhere there is a capping of the charges for the hospitals, admission, the facilities you use, the beds, the rooms, everything. But this has been imposed in India through a executive action. But why executive action? Because it is by notification by the government that this will be the capping of the charges of various facilities which you will be providing. They've given a list of the facilities and given the prices. Now this is differing, as Mr. Pate already said, state to state. I am telling you very frankly, I have not studied the notification of each and every state. I have studied some of the notifications of some of the states. Basically, the Maharashtra state notification is a foundation for similar notification to an extent in different states. Because if I am not wrong, the Maharashtra was the first state to enact a price capping. Now, when Maharashtra state enacted a price capping, they did two things. They enacted the price capping or initiated a price capping for COVID-19 patients and also initiated a price capping for a non-COVID patient's treatment. Very important this factor is. Now, as far as non-COVID patients treatment is concerned, that enactment, that notification has been struck down by the Nagpur High Court of Bombay, saying that the state government has no power to enact any such notification, issue any such notification, either under the Disaster Management Act or under the Epidemic Act. And therefore, that notification is bad in law and that is been struck down. The matter has gone to Supreme Court, but nothing has happened there so far. Today, there is no capping on prices of a non-COVID patient's treatment in state of Maharashtra. That is important. Now, corollarily, COVID patient prices capping also must go on a same principle, because if there is no power to cap the price under the Disaster Management Act or Epidemic Act, there is no power to enact any price capping. Now, bear in mind very important factor. Under Article 19(2), a reasonable restriction can be imposed on your right to carry on trade or business. But that restriction must be by either a parliament or by the state legislature. A state government or a central government in its executive capacity cannot impose any such restriction, because that will not be valid under Article 19(2) of the Constitution. Because 19(2) of the Constitution makes it very clear that reasonable restriction can be enacted or provided by an act. Act can be of a parliament, act can be of a state-wise act of various legislative assembly. So that is one very important factor. So very frankly speaking, on a principle of a judgment of the Nagpur High Court, even this price capping must go. Simple proposition of law. But what is happening? The point which is happening is that this COVID, which is being spreading, is restricting everybody, including the judges, to take such action immediately and struck down the price capping of the COVID treatments. Now, I'm coming to the basis of capping subsequently. But why capping? That is very important question. The capping today has been imposed on the ground that the public must have affordable health care. Now, affordable health care is not able to be provided by the state government and the central government in a hospitals which are run by the either the local government or by the central government like AIMS or by a local authority like corporation. Now, these hospitals do not have sufficient capacity to provide treatment to such large number of cases which are today arising because of the COVID-19 situation, and they are the COVID patient. That is one aspect. The second aspect, apart from the large number of patients, the condition of patient is such that imminent treatment is required, otherwise their life is in danger. So that is the second aspect for which also this issue is being pending, and nobody is going to touch as long as this COVID-19 is going on. That is second aspect. The third aspect is there is a impression that in large number of cases, hospitals do overcharge. Now, how do we remove that impression is very essential. For that purpose, all the hospitals must come open to show that how their charges are very reasonable. That is very essential, because today there is a cases where even a person has charged 1 lakh of rupees. He contends that he has been overcharged. Complaints are filed. Hospital is being prosecuted and the case is registered. So these are the type of cases which are coming up. Now, to avoid these kind of problems, also the government says we will provide a capping. So you charge as per the capping, no action will be taken. If you charge beyond capping, action will be taken. That is how the government has been innovating these capping rules. So that is one third aspect. Now the problem is that if you are going to provide capping, first of course, as I said, it must be have a backing. It must have a backing in law by enacting a legislation which is lacking today. Or you must go to an existing legislation which has some kind of arrangement which you can do it. Now, for example, under the Epidemic Act, under section 6566, you can take over a hospital and you run. So today, state government can say, a hospital, I am taking it over, entire infrastructure I am taking it over, all doctors I will be taking it over, and I will be running that hospital and charging the patients and not the hospital. This is, of course, a temporary measure. It can't be permanent. It's a temporary measure because permanent is not provided under 6566. So it's only temporary. Now, when you do that, government has to do two things. Government has to pay a certain amount of compensation to the hospital for depriving the hospital to run his own business of hospital, which under section 66 can be compensation can be computed by authority, which can be appointed by the government. To entire burden of giving treatment to the patients, including the infrastructure expenses, doctors' expenses, medical expenses, staff expenses, has to be borne by the state government or a corporation, which the corporation or a state government is unwilling to do today. Unwilling. They are totally not, because by method of price capping, without spending a single pie, they are trying to achieve the very same purpose which otherwise they would have to do it by taking over the hospital. Because if they take over the hospital, they will have to give a concessional price to the patient who comes and they have to treat them, which they can do it by asking you to do the same thing. That is what they have done by this notification. So that is the second aspect. The third aspect is that if you are doing this by directing the private hospital, apart from legal justification, there is another justification is required, whether the fixation of a price kept by you is fair, reasonable, because we have to balance the two aspects. One, the business of the hospital cannot be drained down by fixing such ridiculous prices that you do not earn any profit whatsoever. That is one. Or you run a hospital in losses. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that when you are doing this, you are running somebody else's business. How far you are entitled to run a business of somebody else by asking him to treat the patient at X price or Y price means you are a determining authority and not the hospital. So that is another aspect of this. Now, for that purpose, you need a reasonableness in fixation of a price capping. Now, there is no mechanism. As I told you, there is no legislation. There is no mechanism provided. How do you fix the price in respect of the COVID treatment for the patients? There is no mechanism. There is no mechanism in any state government. So every state has innovated their own idea to fix the price. For example, Maharashtra has fixed the price by saying that, look, what you are being reimbursed by public sector insurance companies, that much you can charge to the patient. On the ground, that is a sufficient reimbursement from the hospital company. If you can take it in a non-COVID period, then you are earning a sufficient amount by getting that amount of money from the patient. That is the logic which they have applied. Now, of course, that logic has some basis, because if you are taking money from the patient being treated for similar treatment or almost similar treatment prior to COVID, and you are happy with that amount, then why not now when you get the same amount for the same treatment? But two aspects are ignored in that, which, as Mr. Pate said, there is an additional burden of expenses in respect of COVID patients. Now, to an extent, they are saying that we have taken care of it by providing separate amount to be paid for you for a PPE kit or for a mask or for that purpose, the oxygen cylinders, and we will be therefore giving you that money separate. That is one argument. The second argument is that is the amount reimbursed by the insurance company of the public sector is really a sufficient amount of earning by a hospital, including a minimum profit on that patient. Now, that question is a very complex question, because their argument is that you are happy. The doctors, with whom some of the doctors I have spoken to, they are saying that, look, if I have 100 bed, I give 5 bed to such public sector undertaking, and I make much larger profit in 95 bed, I will be able to equalize my profit even though I suffer a loss on the 5 bed, because I have earned on the 95 bed. But in COVID, you are booking all 100 beds or substantial part of the 100 beds at a concessional rate, which will result in my loss. That is one aspect. The second aspect is the doctors are saying that, look, I am giving this few beds to the public sector enterprise insurance company because my beds are empty to that extent. So rather than going empty, I may earn some money on that. Now, all these arguments are not going to be adjudicated in court of law. It is impossible to adjudicate. Therefore, what should be the basis of the fixation of the rate is absolutely a fluid at present. Somebody will have to take a call. Some legislation will have to be enacted saying that, one, whether such price fixation should be permitted. Second, if it should be permitted, by in what circumstances. And third, what should be the mode or a method of fixation of the price. Now, these three issues are there as far as it concerned. Now, there is another argument which has been advanced by the government in price fixation, and which is also somewhat valid. They are saying that, look, you are taking benefit of the government. For example, a hospital gets a land at a very cheap or a concessional rate from the government for the purpose of putting up their hospital. 2, you get tax exemption by virtue of the fact that you form a public charitable trust. You get a tax exemption on that hospital. 3, they are saying that some of the equipments which are imported and which are allowed to be imported to you for the hospital are given a concessional rate of duty than what is otherwise chargeable. to any other person. So for that also you are getting a benefit. So when you get a benefit from the state, you are a duty bound to return the benefit in such circumstances like COVID-19 to the public at large and help the public in getting them adequate facility of the medical requirements. So this is the next aspect which is being looked after by the government. To the extent there may be a case of a private hospital which might neither have taken the land, which neither have taken the concessional benefit, or which may not be taking any tax exemption because it may not be a trust, it may be a company. So there can be a situation of like that, but there is no distinction made as far as the price capping notification is concerned, which is also very arbitrary and requires to be considered by the court as and when the situation arises. Now the further question which is arising is that what is the duty or a role of the medical facility as far as this kind of a emergency situation arises of a COVID-19. Nobody can say that every person must help others. So therefore they will say that as far as the hospitals are concerned, they should extend the benefit. They should make it affordable for the people at large to get the benefits. Now, when you talk about affordability, it is very essential that there must be a notification, should have a grading of what kind of people are eligible for this benefit and what kind of people are not eligible for the benefit. For one simple example I give, a person who is already insured by the medical insurance, which is now of course large amount of population is insured by the medical insurance. Do you extend the price capping to such person? My answer is categorically no, because that patient is not paying from his pocket. He is getting reimbursement from the medical companies. And the notification is not for saving the loss of the medical medical insurance companies and making you in a loss. That can't be. That is a highly arbitrary that you save a medical insurance company, maybe private or a public or a government company, just to save them from making loss, you make hospital make a loss. That cannot be a rationality, and that is the one aspect which has been totally ignored, which must be looked into. And actually those people who are already insured by medical insurance claim should be excluded from the complete range of this price fixation. What happens when the medical insurance get exhausted? It's another aspect which will have to be looked into. To what extent then they come under the price capping or they don't come under the price capping, that they should insure themselves sufficiently is a second question which have to be considered, which has to be considered. Now there is another aspect of it. Take a case. The person must be very, very poor, or a person may be very, very rich. Now, for a person who is rich, who will occupy a bed at a concessional rate, and a person who is very, very poor will not get the bed when he needs the medical facility. Therefore, it is very essential to categorize income criteria for availing the benefit of price capping, and then getting that person only extended the benefit and not the person who can afford, who is rich and who can afford very well to spend the money for the medical facility as per the requirement of the doctor. There are cases where a person may want a single bed in the hospital, his room. There are cases where a person may want a suite, but the question is if it is available. I'm not saying now in most of the hospitals because of the COVID, that facility may not be available at all. But if it is available, is he entitled to price capping? Then it is highly unjust if he has been extended the price. Therefore, the price capping can be extended only to those patients who are in a common ward or a general ward and whose income criteria is up to a particular limit. Then you extend the price. Now, this is also to be looked into, but that nobody has looked into. As I told you, as far as the government is concerned, they have ad hoc fix the price. Ad hoc. It is totally ad hoc. because the only criteria which they have justified as far as government of Maharashtra is concerned, that you are getting that amount of reimbursement from the nationalized insurance group. Now there is a company, I don't know what they call, you must be knowing better, a few public sector insurance companies, they have made a group, they have entered into an arrangement or agreement with the hospital that they will reimburse to this extent for this sickness, this extent to this sickness. So they say if you have agreed to keep your price to that level, then I am not giving you any rough treatment, I am giving you the same treatment. So therefore you are not affected at all. That is the argument which they are extending to. So that is one of the aspects which will have to be looked into, that what is the basis on which you have entered into, or you mean hospitals have entered into agreements with these public sector enterprises, and how they are suffering the loss. So that is one more aspect which has to be looked into. Now, as far as this issue, now let us come to a very serious legal issue. Today, we are having comparative situation. Is a patient who is serious, whose right to life is in danger. A hospital who is extending the facility of treatment, whose business is curbed. Now, the court has to balance these two aspects. And the law has laid down is that where two fundamental right clash, then a action for a fundamental right of a larger public and for a larger good must get a priority, and the individual or a group fundamental right must be given a giving. Therefore, if this comparison has to be done, undoubtedly a patient's life and right to life is the highest category of life under the Indian Constitution, under Article 21, but it is also recognized as a basic human right. So, argument that when it comes to basic human right of right to life, then your right to carry on business and unreasonable profit must give a go by when it is a basic fundamental right of the public at large is concerned. So this is also another aspect. But at the same time, by doing that, you cannot do so much injustice that another person's right is totally obliterated when it can be saved. Yes, if a situation arises, it has to be obliterated, it will be. Now suppose there is an hospital, a hospital is admitting the patient and dying every month. They may revoke the license of the hospital. Then naturally that can be a situation which is extreme. I'm just giving you an extreme situation. So the question will be that this will have to be balanced at the end of the day. Because today you may say that there is no legislation for fixation of price. There is no power in the government to fix the price. But tomorrow they may enact a legislation. So then challenging that legislation is a different ball game. So therefore, this kind of argument will come into way, that whether reasonability of a restriction has to be looked into from what? From a comparative right of a patient who is having a right to life. Otherwise, he will die. That will be the situation. So that part of the situation is also going to arise subsequently as and when the situation arises. I don't know whether it will arise, government to enact a legislation. Suppose you succeed and the court strikes down the notification saying that there is no legislation. The government may think of enacting a legislation. Possibilities. So we don't know about that situation. So all these situations and things are crowding in at present. Of course, unfortunate situation of COVID-19 is that courts are closed. Most of the courts are functioning on a very, very, very urgent matter. Now, very, very urgent matter is, of course, one, that where the price is taken, the money is taken by the hospital irresponsibly, much larger, then of course court will entertain and say that you refund the money. There may be cases where there is no money not taken, but still person goes to the courts. That all these things happen. Now, as far as the state of Maharashtra is concerned, there is another angle which has been introduced. Under Section 41A of the Public Charitable Trust Act, the all hospitals in state of Maharashtra who has taken a benefit of the government are required to provide 20% reservation, 10% for the economically backward class, and 10% for indignant person who is pauper. So 20% of the reservation is provided under 41A of the Maharashtra Bombay Public Trust Act. Undoubtedly, though it is meant for those hospitals who have taken benefits, but now government is implementing as against all the hospital almost. 90% of the hospital has taken the benefit. 10% has not taken, they are going to implement against them also. So that is another situation which will arise. So whether 20% reservation is also for an indignant person is almost at a free price or free cost. There's no charges. So what has to be done about it? Now, all this situation and circumstance arises. There is another aspect which is very crucially considered by everybody, that what is the social responsibility of doctors? What is the social responsibility of the doctor? Is the doctor's social responsibility is not towards the country and towards the society to treat the patients? Or it is not, or it is only for them to make benefit or profits out of the profession? So that is a social aspect and social responsibility aspect which has been put forward. There is a large number, and I bear in mind, I'm not joking, a large number of associations which are already existing or which has crept in now, crop up in this kind of a situation where they try to propagate the rights of the patients, right of the poor people for the facility, and insist on the government to fix the price, keep the price. They should not allow to charge higher amount. They should not allow to charge at unreasonable price. Now, when you come to that, the Supreme Court, in fact, has passed an order in one matter, asking government to fix the price of the treatment of the hospital. Undoubtedly, that order is no order because nothing is considered. It is just mere observation and direction that why don't you consider to fix the prices? Governments are jumping on it. That court has asked us to fix the prices, we are fixing the price. But that is not the law. Law can't be that court has asked you to do, you are fixing the price. The power you are exercising must have a legislative support. Even a court is not empowered to tell the government that look, there is no law, but you still fix the price. Well, court is restrained. They can't go on saying that no, do whatever you want, we direct you to do. That side of the situation is not allowed. There's a rule of law in India. A rule of law is that there must be a legislation. So, because what is happening is this, simply, I won't take more than 1 minute more of yours. What is happening simply is this, that people are rushing to the court. The media, the newspaper are bursting with these news of COVID-19, the pandemic, the situation, the apathy of the hospitals, the governments, and also of a large amount of people suffering, which is resulting in immense pressure on the court for passing all types of orders. And that is how these types of orders are passed. Do this, do that. Now, court went into the distribution of oxygen. I have a feeling that that's not a job of the court. However, court has an expertise that which state wants how much oxygen and whether the demand is justified. That is a purely, basically a scientific and administrative issue which has to be resolved at the administration level. Court can't jump in. Court has now appointed a committee. Let's see what happens in that. But the point is that court is also overacting and become overactive because of this kind of situation which is prevailing in India. And the world news saying that India is in a pathetic condition. There is no doubt. Why this epidemic you have to wait for? You should have been government and everyone should have been aware by now that do we have a medical infrastructure at the rural level. We are talking about COVID third wave. If COVID third wave has to spread, I don't know what anybody can do when it comes to the absolute village level or a tribals level. It's impossible. Medical facility to reach is impossible. Forget fixation of price or keeping the price. That is irrelevant totally. Therefore, there are many issues. And I think all doctors also should consider how to put it to the government that, look, we will reasonably restrict the price. Take this into account. If possible, you can try. That's all I have to say. And I think I have covered the topic which was provided by Mr. Patel. And thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, Kamdar sir. Absolutely elaborative presentation on the legal and some social aspects of this capping of the hospital charges over here. Sir, before I request one of our leaders to comment upon it, may I put forth a certain angles over here which have been put up by you. Sir, as you mentioned in the beginning, the capping of the medicines, though it was not related to today's topic, definitely our National President, Secretary General is here, our past national presidents are here, and these all are leaders, sir. For last 9 years, they have been asking for one drug, one price. As you are very much aware, the lateral entry of the writ petition in the case which is filed by the Hospital Board of India against this capping, how we received the lateral entry of the writ petitions, and they were claiming to be the originators of fixing of the drug charges. But let me put it on the record over here. It was Indian Medical Association before 9 years or so to demand the one drug, one nation, one price. It was the only Indian Medical Association has demanded this. And till date, government has not enacted. And let me put forth one more thing, sir. Out of 100% of the COVID expenses, nearly 40 to 42% of the expenses are on the pharmacy, in which doctors and hospitals do not have any role to play. It's on government side to cap these charges. And that's why the demand by Indian Medical Association, it stands with a great importance during the COVID era, sir. Secondly, sir, as far as this overcharging by few hospitals, sir, the position is that the stigma is a gift to the service sector hospitals, and the business is a gift to the business-oriented hospitals. That is the situation. Since last 2.5 decades, Indian Medical Association and its doctors and hospitals, they are experiencing the corporate sector entry of the business model hospitals, which are at the prime office responsible for the overcharging. But as far as the IMA Hospital Board of India, all its 4 lakh doctors and hospitals are concerned, these doctors and their hospitals, they are service-oriented hospitals. But the stigma and the backfire is coming to this hospital. That is an unfortunate situation over here. As far as insurance, sir, you mentioned, the insurance companies all across, may it be GIPSA, as you mentioned, sir, or PPs, they are clearly showing the tilt towards the business model hospitals. That is our painful situation for us. As far as the compensation, as per the section 66, I do not see any state in the country who has enacted this section 66 of the Disaster Management Act 2005, sir. Public Trust Act you mentioned, sir. I was very surprised to see the list of the hospitals when we were shown in the with the state secretary, under secretary and the health secretary. The hospitals which were having the corporate module and business-centric hospitals, they were listed under the Public Trust Hospitals list, and which have been doing the business-centric module healthcare, delivering the healthcare in the business module. And these hospitals, as you share, as per the section 41A, the 20% of the patients have to be given the services as per the Public Trust Act. Unfortunately, the same has been seen as evaded by all these hospitals, and they do continue to do so even during the pandemic. That is a painful situation over here. So these are the few points over here. May I request our National President, Dr. Jayalal, sir, for his comments on this, sir.
Mangesh, I think sir is not there.
May I request HSG Lele
May I
sir?
take a leave now?
Yeah. Lele
No,
sir?
Mangesh, it is okay. I think, see, I don't want to comment on
Yeah.
advocates this thing. Dr. Jayalal is there because I thought that
Wankhedkar sir is there and Vinay Agarwal sir is there, sir.
So,
I
Dr.
think
Mangesh,
Mangesh,
Yes, sir.
start
go
with
ahead
the
with
next.
the panel discussion
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
so that that is more important. And later on, at the end of the whole story, then you can give your comments.
Yes, yes.
okay, sir.
I do agree, Dr. Mangesh. Please go ahead with the all panelists, and then we can take the chat, the question.
Thank you, Kamdar sir. Thank you, Kamdar.
Kamdar sir, thank you so much. Thanks
Welcome,
for.
welcome. Thank you very much.
Kamdar Sahib, खूप आभारी.
Yes, left, sir. Now we have got a panel discussion over here, and we have got a very lucid speakers over here. Our past national president, Dr. Vinay Agrawal, sir. Our past national president and WMA treasurer, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar, sir. Our Hospital Board of India chairman, Dr. Sharad Agrawal, sir. And of course, Dr. T. Narasimha Reddy, who has been one of the big pioneer in the costing studies, as far as costing studies are concerned. So the first point, as mentioned during this elaborative presentation by Justice Kamdar sir, as far as the capping of the hospital charges are concerned, we have seen that there has been a lot of a mismatch as far as the overheads of the hospitals are concerned and what hospitals are getting because of this capping from the patients. So I would like to our speakers to elaborate on this first point. May I request Dr. Vinay Agrawal, sir?
Mangesh,
Yes, sir.
can I just humbly suggest?
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
Vinay sir. You allow each panelist 2-3 minutes first to state,
Speak.
and then we can have questions. And
Okay.
because then once I think all the panelists speak, most of the issues will
Points.
be covered.
Got it. Got
Am I
it, sir.
right, Vinay sir?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So may I request our past national president, Dr. Vinay Agrawal, sir, for his speech.
See, our national president, Dr. Jayalal, Dr. Lele, the Secretary General, Dr. Sharad Agrawal, our chairman of board, Pate, my dear friend Ravi Wankhedkar, and senior colleagues and delegates for this webinar. I'm extremely happy today that Hospital Board of India has taken a different direction of academic outreach program, of going to members on topics which are either bothering them or are of interest to them as far as managing the healthcare in more efficiently and more effectively. I also want to compliment them for bringing out 4 documents, which has been extremely useful to every hospital owner and every administrator in the hospital to know what exactly is the issue of oxygen, what exactly issue of mucormycosis, and different aspects of the other things. I want to compliment you. I also want to compliment Justice Kamdar. Justice Kamdar, in a very, very lucid way, has really explained all the possible legal aspects and made it so simple that what exactly is the capping of charges, under what circumstances it has been done, was it required, was it not required, what are the legal weaknesses in this aspect still, and what is the differentiation which probably has not been taken into consideration, and the weaknesses of the administrative system are responsible for the administrative empowerment or administrative ruling or the administrative issues with the private sector. Very lucid way, I'm sure. Nothing much is left, but I just want to take you to a journey of why capping of charges has come today. You have to go in really 74 years of history after independence of the healthcare. If you go and take 30 years back, before 30 years, it was practically the government sector which was running it. Well planned primary health structure, district hospitals, or otherwise the private hospitals were usually run by the charitable trusts or missionaries or otherwise, or I mean, various religious trusts and other things. which used to run these hospitals. It was practically in 80s or late 70s that the private sector started coming into being. It is initially started coming in the form of very, very small nursing homes. And it was I think mid 80s that Apollo started in a big way, bringing out the technologies from abroad to India. I remember the time when VP Singh, Jayaprakash Narayan, others went out to take treatment. And so anybody who could afford used to go out and to take treatment, whether it was US, whether it was UK, or whether it was Singapore, or whether it was any place. It was a D thing. If you have money, go out for treatment. Because number one, the confidence was not there. Number two, there was no proper facilities available in India as far as technology was concerned. Now, if from 80s onwards, we see this journey of 30 years, the respect to the medical profession and respect to the healthcare of this country has been given and given and given only by one is the private sector. Now, private sector, the growth of private sector has totally dependent on the bringing out technologies in this India and taking care of all those persons who can afford. After all, they also have a right to be treated. So all those persons who can afford were now being treated by the private sector, and slowly, hospitality angle also kept adding because of medical tourism and all those things, which you can call it a corporatization or any other thing. I don't believe in saying that blaming one group to say that they probably are responsible for overcharging and we are not responsible for overcharging. If we really see, it will be very fair to say in this forum, to say if you see the bills of even a smaller nursing home, and if you see the legalities or illegalities in those bills, you will find a lot of difference and a lot of things in probably the systematized billing. If you see, will be, because I can say this, I've been running two centers, a secondary care center and a corporate sector also. I've had the experience of running it. So it is not one sector which is responsible. It is probably every aspect or every sector, whether it is small nursing home or a bit, because we are not regularized and we did not even bring like associations like Indian Medical Association or did not even think of bringing regularization in our working, so that somebody else does not have to come and regulate us. I agree with Justice Kamdar when he said that what right or what necessity that Supreme Court is jumping into oxygen supply, is jumping into the drugs issue, or is jumping, but simultaneously, what right the government and the courts have on that they are fixing up the rates of the medical nursing homes or medical establishments. Now, in this entire factor and what exactly has happened in COVID-19, we have to really go into it. COVID-19 has totally exposed the public sector of this country. A well-made public sector of this country, which was well talked about, has with 1% of the GDP been spent there, and that 1% of the GDP, 60% of the GDP going into super specialty hospital, which probably was not the D place for government to spend, whether it is All India Institute of Medical Sciences in every city and other things. But what has happened is that they did not bother about the primary health structure. When I say primary health structure, I even mean up to the district hospitals. And when they get exposed, simultaneously, it is the proliferation of small nursing homes, mid-sized nursing homes, or tertiary care hospitals, super specialty hospitals. Because all those specialists which came out of our medical colleges were not been properly involved or properly engaged in the government sector, because the government sector had no facilities, and because since the private sector kept on providing facilities, then even the brain drain was stopped because of the private sector involvement. A lot of technologies are there. Now today you see in every practically big hospital doing liver transplant, doing kidney transplant, doing lung transplant, what all are not doing. Now comparing A and B and C together by the government, saying that these rates are fixed only on two categories, NABH or non-NABH, and they are is also absolutely grossly unfair. And as rightly said by Mangesh, and that what has been the study to go to it? What Justice Kamdar said, that they took the GIPSA rates as the rates responsible for, and they said when You can do work in GIPSA rates. You can do work in this also. But you rightly has put it in your, background paper that it is COVID-19 treatment is not GIPSA rates. It is a lot of other things which are responsible for that. Now, those things have not been taken care of. Now, simultaneously, how can you think of a hospital in a suburb of Delhi and a hospital in a different place? If a tertiary care or super specialty hospital and a nursing home will have the same rates, how can you compare that NABH category is all together? They will have the same rates. So a lot of irregularities are there in fixing up, and there is no study about it. I want to compliment Hospital Board of India, and particularly Indian Medical Association. That Indian Medical Association was a part of this study, and we have Narsinga Reddy, and I want to compliment Ravi Kumar. Want to compliment even Anil Goel in that particular thing, when they were a part of the study which was conducted by Hospital Board of India on pricing. And they even also they joined hands with whether it was FICCI, whether it AHPI and other groups also, and gave a solid document to the government on pricing, which probably was kept in their shelves without even, they did not even consider it. Now, this kind of a Tanashahi ruling by the government to say, no, you have to take this much charges on. The entire efforts of the government today is not to strengthen the public sector, rather to regulate the private sector. They feel that they are more responsible in doing administration of the private sector than they are not responsible for the weaknesses of the public sector. This is what has been totally exposed. And this exposure of the infrastructure of healthcare in this country is responsible for what is happening and is responsible for what we are suffering. And I'm sure very rightly that the statesmen like and our friends like Justice Kamdar will be of really, who have done a tremendous study, will be of a really great help to us to getting us justice. Which other profession the courts ever thought of regularizing prices? Which other profession they ever thought of regularizing prices? You rightly said, Mangesh, when you said that it is the 40% of the bill is because of pharmacy. Government has no guts to regulate pharmacy prices. Why? Because they are funded by them. All kind of white or black and everything whatsoever I can say, all kind of corruption and all kind of this thing is from pharmacy. They get money from pharmaceutical companies. So they cannot regulate those prices. And when they cannot regulate those prices, they will like to regulate those 60% prices, which with a lot of difficulties, the private sector is able to manage in those prices. You just imagine the situation of COVID-19 wave 1 and wave 2. Totally different. In wave 2 was such a difficulty. Oxygen prices went 4 times or 5 times. Drugs were not available. Hospitals were procuring those drugs in much higher prices, and what not. All other services were went in this thing, and it was government which was responsible for that. And I can say whether we can use this plea that only courts are doing the important aspects online. Otherwise, if they are finding oxygen as an important aspect, or not finding fixing of prices as an important aspect, I feel bad about it. Division Bench of Delhi is almost struggling for almost a month on daily basis to look at this aspect of corona epidemic situation, including the fixing of prices. And every time it is the government and the court and the other things which are trying to keep on taking dates, and the dates are increasing, and nothing crystallized on this aspect of the pricing of this thing, even in spite of the fact that the Delhi government officials, with the amicus curiae of the High Court, as well as the hospital representatives, Hospital Board of India representatives, and other representatives of the hospital organization, they all sat. They decided, yes, these rates are unreasonable. They decided they need a recommendation for a hike, and all those things were decided. But still about 15 days are there which are not there. So what I want to say with one of the speakers here, see, we also to be sensitive to the situation what it is today. And let us, every time whenever we talk in an association, we talk about it, that this has not been done with us, but we don't talk what we have done for ourselves. This is also true that our bills are hiked. This is also true that we are not regularizing our bills. This is also true that we are not true even to the GIPSA rates. This is also true that lot of codes are being used and misused for billing purposes. So all those bills which are going out, becoming an example to regularize these rates, as far as this entire thing is concerned. When you start talking about regularization, all those bills come in favor. I mean, I'm seeing in Delhi also, a lot of those bills are in the domain to say that this bill is, look, this is a 1 lakh bill per day, in spite of all those charges have been done. So all those things are happening. This is not the topic of today. What I just want to say to end my this thing, because a lot of time has been taken, that there is a need of rationalizing thinking, of rationality of these charges which has been imposed on the private sector in the name of Epidemic Act or Disaster Management Act, which are unreasonable. The private sector is finding it very, very difficult to manage in those rates. And the government is absolutely sleeping, not even thinking that it is going to have an impact on the kind of and the quality of healthcare to be provided. And through this webinar, I want to appeal to the government of the day that please be reasonable. I want to say we are ready to give those charges of a general ward of any hospital per day expenses. Calculate them. If I am in Delhi, I'll say LNJP hospital, which is a 2,500 bedded hospital. What you spend per day per bed charges in LNJP hospital, I can assure you, Apollo hospital will be able to manage them with a smile on their this thing, if you will come to know what are the charges there. While we were doing this pricing, we calculated the charges of All India Institute of Medical Sciences for 1 day, one bed charges. You'll be surprised to know they were coming out to be 47 or 48,000 rupees per day of a general ward. Now, government will not go into those things. So, in any way, because I know that Ravi and me are reasonably guest speakers, but Sharad and Narsinga Reddy will give you the technical aspects of rates and other things, how they have reached to that place. So, with these words, I once again want to compliment both of you, Sharad and Pate, and the initiative taken by Jayalal and Lele. It is really good. Please keep maintaining it. I feel very happy when I see that the seed which I in my term was I try to sow is giving results. That is just a wonderful feeling. You can understand that. Thank you very much. Keep it up. That's it.
Thank you so much, Vinay sir. Such a elaborative presentation with the clear ideas. Now let us straight away go to our next speaker, WMA Treasurer and our past National President, vibrant IMA leader, Dr. Ravi Wankadkar sir.
Thank you, Mangesh. I will try to be very brief considering the sentiments which are expressed in the chat box. Beloved National President, very hard-working HSG, Chairman HBI, Sharad Bhai, Secretary Mangesh, the doyen of Hospital Board of India and the most respected Dr. VVR sir. Hope you are safe and stay safe, sir. It was VVR sir's original work in the state of Tamil Nadu in starting Tamil Nadu Hospital Board, which is an extremely powerful and strong body. And later on, it was adopted at the national level. So thank you, VVR sir. We are really indebted to you. Congratulations to the HBI leadership for starting this series of webinar. Hope every Friday it will be continued and it will be crisp and more precise. Coming to this current topic, which is extremely important, and it is very good that you started with this topic, the series of webinars. because this is blatantly illegal, as very eloquently described by our learned friend and very senior advocate Kamdar sir, that this move is basically illegal. It is arbitrary, it is quixotic, it is political, and it is unscientific. Unscientific because no costing studies were done. In fact, till last 3 to 4 years, government never bothered to do costing studies. It was the initiative of Indian Medical Association, Hospital Board of India in 2018. We started this with Dr. Munga sir as the chairman HBI and Ashokan sir, Munga sir, Narsinga, Ravi Kumar. They all sat together, did a cross-sectional study in 6 states. Later on, the FICCI, CII also joined Indian Medical Association after their personal efforts fell deaf onto the ears of government, especially regarding Ayushman Bharat. Why I am giving this background? Because basically rates, this issue of rates is there. And then we had 2 to 3 meetings, joint meetings with all these organizations, AHPI, CAHO, and they fully agreed the leadership of IMA through HBI. And they agreed that we will not go to the government directly. They sent all their costing studies done independently by those associations. They were all collated, collected, and then presented to the government. Unfortunately, like any other issue, scientifically even presented to the government has not acted on it. And still we are seeing the ill effects of the same tendencies. So, why I am saying unscientific is, one is costing study. As everybody has mentioned, the rising input cost. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. 40% of it is always on drugs, 20% it is on consumables. The doctor per se gets hardly 10 to 15%. And hence, it is unscientific again. More so over, it is unscientific because COVID is being a new disease. How a patient will react, you just can't make a generalization like an abdominal hysterectomy or a tonsillectomy and say that COVID you treat in this much money. That is very important to understand, friends. That we can't, in this novel disease where a patient may require suddenly to be shifted to intensive care, and in intensive care also, even patient on ventilator may require so many more investigations, so many more interventions. Hence, it is unscientific. It is unscientific because, as everybody understands and knows, that it does not take into consideration the geographical variations. It does not take into consideration the facilities available in each type of hospital. It is basically a political issue. Why I say this? Because the government very well understands that it has no capacity, not even in normal times, to give healthcare delivery system to the entire population. And more so ever, this was exposed in this COVID pandemic to a largest and to the worst extent. And to cover up this and to shift the blame onto the private sector, this particular issue of capping of charges as a cheap popularity measure with 100% political overtones, that now they are free to blame the private sector, which is doing yeoman service in this particular pandemic. Imagine if the private sector would not have been there, what would have been the tremendous sufferings of the patient. And very conveniently, now they are beating and blaming the private sector. They are using this bureaucracy to try to rein in, which always wanted to control the very vibrant and efficient private sector. Up till now, we were never under their control. We means the private sector. But by utilization, misutilization of various particular acts, and as rightly said by Advocate Kamdar, illegally also, they are trying and they have succeeded, unfortunately, in controlling the private sector by shifting the blame of even availability of oxygen or drugs, which is never and should never be a responsibility of the hospital or individual doctors. What kind of legality is this? Nowhere in the world it is seen that the doctor or the hospital is responsible to see to it that all other ancillary services, ancillary equipments and drugs and disposables are to be made available. That is pathetic. But unfortunately, that is happening, that is going to happen. Hence, what is the solution? The solution can be only and only legal. Whatever we may say that we need to self-regularize. It is a sad fact, as said by Vinay sir, that we don't self-regularize. And it will not be possible in such a vast country of us. There will be hundreds of people having hundreds of different opinions, hundreds of different ways. Hence, we have the only option is to fight legally, as elaborated again by Mr. Kamdar, and we in state of Maharashtra have been winning on the legal count. And to do that, because health is a state subject, each state has a different type of mechanism for fixing up of the charges. I think National HBI should act as a coordinator and guide each and every state to file cases in that particular state, so as to we can have a legal reprieve. And why this is important? Because the future is more bleak, friends. Try to understand on 3 counts. One, as I already mentioned, the bureaucracy has now tasted blood. Government has tasted blood regarding the private medical sector. Expect more and more regulations and more quixotic draconian laws trying to reign in the private sector. Already lot of civil society groups, media has started a campaign that yes, we need to regulate the private sector. The second danger is under the garb of this pandemic, government will definitely again push its 2 agenda of so-called increasing the number of healthcare workers in the form of bridge courses, mixopathy, and as health assistants, which IMA has been opposing tooth and nail. So by just saying that we did not have enough doctors during managing the pandemic, and the gullible people and gullible media will definitely take forward. The third danger is if we agree to fixation of rates in this pandemic, it opens up that even in non-pandemic times, the government may try to fix these rates, which IMA has been opposing tooth and nail, and which we have succeeded in Maharashtra to remove that non-COVID rates. And the fourth danger is all the other insurance companies, which they have already started doing. That if you are, if you are ready to accept the rates with the government, what is the harm in accepting rates for the private insurance companies? So with this all dangers, my humble submission to all that we should fight it out legally. Politically, it becomes a very difficult situation to maintain a public image and to fight it out in the media. Another thing which HBI needs to do is to start sensitizing on the topic of economics of health. Our doctors who are into private practice or who set up hospitals never undertake a cost-benefit ratio. never undertake a market survey. As like any businessman, any industrialist, before starting any industry, he would do an extensive survey. He would make a project report. He would really find out the strengths, the weaknesses, and how to make that venture profitable. It is time now to consider health, which everyone else thinks that it is a business. So we also need to now first sensitize our own members, come out with topic on various papers, collect material on that particular topic. Very few centers are there, very few people are there who are working on health economics. It is still a virgin sector. But all these areas of capping, costing, all this come under it. If IMA through HBI can come out on all these issues of health economics, I think that will be a great service in the long run. Not only in a positive way also, but whenever such circumstances arise, it can be of great help. Once again, I congratulate the HBI team and wish them all the best. Myself, Vinay sir, as he has said, and we have been associated with HBI since its inception, and hence we are so very happy, and we are always there to help out. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai IMA.
Thank you, sir. As expected, clear ideas by Dr. Ravi Wankirkar, sir. May I request now Dr. Sharad Agrawal, our chairman, IMA Hospital Board of India, to deliver his talk.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mangesh. Gautam, can you share the screen? So, respected National President, HSG, Dr. Lele, our leader, past National President, Dr. Vinay Agarwal sir, Dr. Ravi sir, and all the senior leaders and colleagues. As we have discussing a very important topic, and I being the fourth speaker, it is advantage as well as the disadvantage. That advantage is everything has been covered. So there is very little to say. And we are blessed that we have these kind of our senior leader who are vast knowledgeable and they have covered everything. So I'll go through the costing part of the actual costing part in the COVID hospital. And as Dr. Vinay Agarwal sir said very rightly, that you cannot cap the rate on the basis of NABH or non-NABH, because the category of hospital can be based on the equipedness, bed quantity size, and the critical care equipment size. NABH is there for the less than 50 bed hospital also, for the 50 bed hospital also. So NABH and non-NABH cannot be the criteria. So I have tried to work out because the time was very less. So we could analyze 8 to 10 hospital, different size of hospital, their actual cost in the April month, because April month was the most hitted month where the maximum crisis was there, as well as in the patient side as well as in the logistic side, like oxygen or the injection and the medicines. So because the time was less, so we could only analyze 8-10 hospital. So for that, I will present all these things in front of you, by which we can proceed in our respective state court to sensitize them that what are the actual operational costs for treating the different category of the patient, L1, L2, L3, and what the government has fixed up. Gautam, next. So as everybody says that these rates have been fixed on ad hoc basis, and they are not meeting the operational cost. The FICCI study came out with the costing package, mind it, 17,000 for the L1 isolation bed, 34,000 for the L2 ICU bed, and 45,000 for the ventilator. Next. The costing exercise carried out revealed that beside cost on PPE, other infection control measure, there was huge cost relating to the manpower due to their infection, quarantine, and paying much higher compensation. This is a very important point which we every time missing, that this is an additional cost in running a COVID hospital. Over and above the oxygen consumption, it is increased by 2-3 times, and the cost refilling price increased fourfold. Next. Gautam, next. Then there is a, no, previous one. Yeah. So imaging cost, high cost of drug, as Dr. Vinay sir has mentioned, the methylprednisolone, enoxaparin, meropenem, their cost has increased 3 to 4 times of the normal cost. Can you believe it? The government has fixed the price. I don't know on what basis. Hospitals were required to make the temporary infrastructure changes to follow the COVID area separation rooms. This is also a very important point which have to bring to the knowledge of government or the court. Next, Gautam, next. One important factor need to be brought on table. Because of COVID, many non-units have become non-functional. As our learned speaker, Justice Kamdar sir told, that there are the hospital which have say they are ready for giving 5% beds of the government acquisition. So the other facility in the COVID, they have become absolutely zero. So there is a losses when if you are running a COVID hospital. So because you are running a COVID, because of that fear and stigma, the non-COVID patient stops to coming to those hospitals. And you have to run with your fixed cost. You cannot remove your staff. You cannot run half hospital and half not, because most of the hospital run on the centralized system. So this is an additional cost when we are running out of these specialties. Increase investment in high flow nasal cannulas, BiPAPs, ventilator, oxygen pipeline, which will not be of much use later on. Extra payment for, and the extra payment for the transport of cylinders in April, paid extra for oxygen. Gautam, next. So see, these were the issue which we should be putting in our respective area. We should be sensitize our MP, MLA in our local area, so that they can also talk to the government, as well as whenever we put the case in the court, we should be emphasizing on these points also. And as Kamdar sir told very rightly, that Pandemic Act doesn't overrule my fundamental right as per Article 9, which gives me power individual right to earn. How can a state government fix the charges of services, including consumable, without a reason? And on popularistic approach, they all are, as we all agree, and all these speakers were agreed on this, that these are more on the populistic approach than the reasonable approach. They cannot do this. We are not obliged by taking any land on the subsidized rate, or any subsidy on the equipment, on any subsidy on the electricity. So why they are fixing? How can they fix? And mind you, in all these Pandemic Act, or whatever the Essential Service Act, which Dr. Mangesh shown his presenting slides, nowhere it is written that the government is allowed to cap the rate. They can be, it can be a reasonable regulation of the rate, but there has to be some reason why it is 8,000, why it is not 7,000, why it is not 9,000, how they have come to the 8,000. So this is a question. Next. So I try to categorize the beds in 4 categories, irrespective of their NABH status. Like category A, more than 150 beds with centralized AC, comprehensive fire safety system with fire pump, fire tank, refuse area, with installed ETP and STP plant, their room size is spacious, probably minimum 50 critical beds with 10 ventilator and 10 non-ventilator BiPAP beds, modular spacious OT, CSSD, spacious lifts for the patient transport, fire stair, generator, ACLS ambulance, NABH or non-NABH. So this can be the category A hospital. Next. And these are the B category, 100 to 150 bed, missing 2 or 3 services which the A category have, or with the may not be with complete fire safety system. The C category, the less than 100 beds with all these above facilities. And the 4 category is less than 50 or more than 50, less than 100, with few of these facility which the A or B category is having. Next. So this is the costing which my team, HBI team, they have worked out and planned. You can see that there are the different heading in which we have studied the oxygen part, housekeeping, medicine, GDAs, diet charges, electricity, the fixed cost, and the as well as the variable cost, security, salaries, physiotherapy, laundry, and the other charges like the interest rate, like the bank charges, and the waste disposable charges, lab diagnostic charges like the diagnostic, and few tests which needs to be sent outside the lab, outside, because there are hospital which were sending their few tests to outside lab. So outside lab charges and the COVID consumables. So if you, we have categorized in the 3 category: L1, like those who are in the ward; the L2 who were not on the ventilator or any NIV support even; and the L3 who are on the either on the ventilator or the on the BiPAP NIV support. So if we have come out to the actual cost, to the per bed per day cost, and if you calculate all, if you see the sum in L1 for the A category bed, it comes out to be 11,946. And if we see the rates in Delhi and UP by the government fixed, it is 8,000. So there is a delta of almost 4,000. It's same way in the ICU L2 category, the cost, operational cost, comes out to be 17,322. Again, the difference is 4,322 per day loss per bed per day loss. And ICU L3 facility, patient on the ventilator or BiPAP, if we consider all these costs as I mentioned the heads, it comes out to 23,029. So we are very realistic in comparison to what the FICCI has done. We have tried to put the cost as realistic and as on the lower side which we can. And again, the delta is 8,000 rupees in the A category. Next. This is for the B category, less than 100. So even in this category, if you see, the delta is in L1 category, it's 2,000 difference. In L2 category, it's almost 1,000 difference. And in L3, it is almost 4,500 difference, what the government is giving us. And these cost is not been, I have not taken the depreciation cost. I have not taken the installation cost of the extra equipment, as I mentioned in my previous slide, putting the extra high flow nasal cannula, BiPAPs, ventilator, and which will be almost in vain in the coming time once the COVID is over. So I have not taken those costs in this. It is absolutely only and only the operational cost. Next. This is the category C, less than 100 bed. Only in this category, if you see, the delta in the L1 category is almost 500, and in L2 category, these category of bed hospital which are less than 100 bed, only they are able to do in category 2. But again, in the category 3 ICU patient on ventilator, again they are bearing a loss of almost 2,000 per bed. Next. This is the small hospital which are less than 50 bed or 50 to 100 with less services. They in these hospital, we have not taken the L3 because whatever hospital we study, they were not providing the L3 services. They were not having the ICU with ventilator. So they are only providing L1, L2. Only these kind of hospital can be sustainable with these rate what the government is providing us. So this study can be based, and we can further analyze and do addition and deletion on this study, but this study can be make a foundation for us to do the exercise. And on these basis, because unless until we do this costing, wherever we go, nobody will listen to us. Unless until we'll show them that these are the basic actual costing, then only whether it is politician or in the court of law, we will be able to justify our plea of at least revising these prices, revising these capping on the rates. So with these things, I request everyone attending this seminar that we are trying at HVI to bring the issues of the hospital, the burning issue of the hospital, which are prevalent, and try to give them the solution. And as a HBI headquarter, we can be the knowledge partner with all the state leaders, and they can file the cases in their high court, because the rates are different in different states. So with these words, I again thank you to all my seniors who are continuously guiding us. And I'm thankful to Mangesh. He's working very hard in organizing every week seminar. Thank you with all these words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. Now I go ahead for our last speaker, Dr. T. Narasimha Reddy. Yeah, you can.
And Sharad Bhai, that was an extensive presentation of what you have done. So let me thank you also for that. And first of all, let me thank my President Dr. Jailal and Dr. Lele sir, Dr. Mangesh Bhai, Ravi sir, Vinay sir, and all the senior leaders in the IMA. It in fact was a pleasure for me to be a part of the costing committee when Ravi Venkatkar sir was the president of the IMA, and we had the opportunity to do the costing for Ayushman Bharat. With my past experience as a president of IMA Telangana, where I was doing the costing work for the state, when we were negotiating with the government of Andhra Pradesh, the time of the combined state, for the pricing of RNC rates. And in fact, it's one of the very strange experience of the 4 years what I had between 2012 to 2016. I think nobody's done the costing before, and we really went through the costing, how it is done. And finally, what you realized is what we are doing really below the cost, below the undercutting at cost, and we are in fact bleeding ourselves doing the government schemes. And naturally, after that, we hired some few professionals from the financial background, and we sat with them for nearly 4 years and spent nearly about 20 to 25 lakhs, and came out from the way and the protocols we followed to do the costing. And initially, when we started this entire costing process, because most of the people here are our senior leaders, I want to tell you the basics of the costing, how we have done. You see, in any costing, you have two steps of costing. One is the fixed cost and one is the variable cost. And the fixed cost is the infrastructure, what you have, like the building, the furniture, and the air conditioning and all, which is the fixed cost. And the running cost is your electricity, your water, and your salaries, and other like your taxes, whatever you pay. Those all comes under the variable cost. And I don't really go into the details of everything because we are running short of time. I'll just give 2 examples how we have done a costing. As most of the people are, because you all know, you all run nursing homes and all. And I'll take an example of an ECG, a basic ECG. We charge about 100 or 150 rupees. That's what we think the cost of an ECG should be. But unfortunately, friends, your cost of ECG should be not less than 500 rupees. And I tell you why your ECG should be 500 rupees. Probably you think the ECG machine costs you something, say between a 12-channel ECG costs you between a lakh, or a 3-channel should cost you 50,000. So it ranges from 50 to a lakh. And what you have done was, we have taken a 50-bedded hospital as a base for the study, and a 120 square foot room for an ECG room. And the cost of the machine has 75,000 rupees, comparing with a 3-channel and a 12-channel. So with the 75,000 rupees ECG and a 120 square foot of room, that's the infrastructure what we have with the air conditioning and you have a technician with a table, chair, and whatever you have it. So these all come under the costing that we are supposed to do it. But unfortunately, we don't take all these things for the costing. And not only that, we have other people in the reception area. We have a person or a sister who does the ECG, and you have the electricity cost. Then you have the maintenance for the equipment cost. So these are the costs that has to be added. So when you try to add this cost, and assuming that you do about, say, for a 50-bed hospital, you do between 15 to 20 ECGs per day, the costing per you per day to run equipment like this, irrespective of whether you do 5 ECGs or 20 ECGs, your average costing is between 300 to 500 rupees per ECG. Now look at this situation. You cannot charge a patient 300 to 500 rupees for simple ECG because it is so outrageous, because the paper itself costs you a rupee or probably 2 rupees for the paper, and the machine is about 75,000. So in fact, what we try to do is we try to rationalize the cost and analyze it in such a way that it is affordable to everybody. So we reduce the cost to say 150 or 175 or 200 rupees. So this is one of the examples. Or you can take an X-ray machine also, where we charge between, say, something around 300 rupees to 500 rupees, depending on area to area. The same issue arises in the X-ray machine too. See, you have so much of cost involved. So what we exactly look into is, the costing is so subjective, and you cannot compare your costing with a corporate hospital to a 10-bed hospital to a 50-bed hospital. So this variable costs keep on increasing depending on the size of the facility. So that is number one. And when we come to the capping of prices, we also realize that you can cap a price on a surgical procedure to a certain extent, not beyond that. Because when a person has got comorbid conditions and other areas, there you cannot cap a price. You can always have a certain fixed base price. Then later on, you can have an additional supplementary pricing for that. So this is one thing what we realize when we do the costing. Now, when we come to the costing for the COVID, I like Gautam to please come on with the slide, please. I have a small presentation of 4 to 5 slides where this is what we thought should be the new concept, something called the dynamic pricing in COVID-19 treatment. So what is basically a dynamic pricing is, the dynamic pricing is also referred to as a surge pricing. What is a surge? A surge is something like suddenly it shoots up and falls down. Whereas the demanding pricing is something where it stays down for some more time, then slowly it starts to come down. Or the third thing is called the time-based pricing, or what you see for the airlines, where on a sector from, say, Hyderabad to Delhi, if there are 100 seats and the ticket price is 100, the first 10 seats they cost you 10 rupees, the next 20 seats you cost you 40 rupees, and next 10 seats you cost you 70 rupees, and from there on it goes beyond that. So it's called the demand pricing. So I think this is where the hospitals also should have a pricing strategy in which the hospital also have a set flexible price for materials and the service based on the current market values. And why is there need for this dynamic pricing? So we are, in fact, as healthcare industry, we are facing so many external factors that are creating us or that are drawing us into this sort of a whirlpool where we are forced to increase our pricing. The other pricing is the industry consolidation, is one where you are seeing the prices of the commodities, the price of drugs and everything has just gone up depending on the demand and availability. So when the demand is more and when the production is less, so what the industry tries to do is they try to upscale the pricing, and that's where they try to do it. And then you have the regulations that are coming in by the government, and these sort of regulations that really hamper our professional way of how we do it. And they're also the government demanding for a transparency in our billing. And this adds to the pressure on the healthcare system and the manufacturers, and everybody wants to make a profit out of it. And if you look at the last 3 decades, so what has happened? More than 1,000 healthcare manufacturers have been acquired by bigger manufacturers, and they try to consolidate to make more money. So these are the few factors. The next slide, please. So what we are looking at is, see, the average cost of hospital in the COVID-19 patient ranges from, in fact, we have presented the dollars, but it ranges based on age. So it also one of the factors is the length of the stay. The older the patient or the risk of the disease is more severe, the length of stay of the hospital may be from 5 days to 15 days. That's where the cost of the treatment goes up. Then the average hospital charges increase when the patient stays longer, and also because of the age. These are the main factors that I've been looking to. So considering all these factors, this is dynamic pricing is one where if you can really work on the pricing, and if you can come out with a better idea how to do it, because now we are seeing in COVID, because I was running a COVID facility with about 80 beds, and I've seen the challenges what I faced the last 2 months, and the amount of stress what we have faced, something which is so challenging, and moreover, it is some sort of experience that I've gained, saying that the system is there to stay. The COVID is here to stay. Now the time has come where the IMA and HBI come out with a proper costing, so that this COVID, the way the entire pandemic has been looked into, we can come with a solution where we can tell the government that this is the way you're going to charge, and this is the way we're going to. The future of the pricing and the costing will be like this. So with these few words, and I thank you one and all for giving this opportunity, because there's so many, there are another 2-3 slides where I don't want to spend more of time. But anyway, I thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Mangesh, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Narasimha Reddy. Very short but scientific presentation on the costing. Now, I have gone through the chat box. Very pertinent questions are just one or two for the speakers. One of it is, does this capping of the hospital, does it come under the ESMA Act, Essential Services Maintenance Act?
No. No.
So
I have answered.
Yeah. So
It is under the Pandemic Act.
Pandemic Act it is under. It is not under the ESMA Act. I don't think any other questions are there except one. This message which I received even in the personal capacity.
Mangesh, can I just add?
Yes, sir. Vinay, sir.
That
Yes.
you said about ESMA, and we are talking about the Pandemic Act and Disaster Management Act. If we correlate both of them, somebody can some strange or person or administrative person can definitely correlate it. Essential Services, Pandemic Act, and Disaster Management Act. So they can be so directly saying that it is not will not be correct, but I'm sure a person like Justice Kamdar and all can be will be the right person to say that whether are we covered in that or not.
Yes, sir. I think one additional information what Kamdar sir gave today during his thing was, one bench in the Supreme Court, they have mentioned that affordability is a part of a right to health. This is statement what he mentioned about the Supreme Court judgment. And they have given not the order, but a direction to all state governments that you should be ready to provide the healthcare during COVID pandemic to citizens. If not, then at least see to it that the healthcare in the private sector be affordable. This is what the directive says. And there they have mentioned about ESMA in that one direction. Otherwise, the notifications which are by all the governments, just before the notification, there is a list of the acts which are referred under which that notification is coming. ESMA is not mentioned in any of the acts. But definitely, as Vinay sir has said, if you conglomerate these things, the meaning goes to the ESMA Act. I think there are no more questions over here. So if you allow me, can I summarize the thing? Chairman, sir? Hello?
I think Mangesh.
Yes.
Some people have raised their hands, so if they can, if you have a time, you can take those questions. And if
Yes, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yes, sir. And see,
Dr. Mangesh.
Yes, sir. Dr. Krupal Singh, please.
Please take.
Sir, I am Dr. Kripal Singh, sir,
Yes, sir.
from Telangana.
Yeah.
I'm Professor HOD Forensic Department at Gandhi. My question, I mean, I have seen all the speakers giving their opinion about the capping of charges. And I feel that insurance, which is not being accepted by the corporates or the hospitals treating COVID patients, this should be made mandatory. People having a legal insurance, health insurance, this will put to rest all the issues relating to capping of charges. And our doctors, most of them have suffered, and common man is suffering because of non-acceptance of cashless insurance, sir. This also can be taken with the hospitals.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And it will put to rest the capping of issues, charges, whatever the hospitals, that will become very transparent, what I feel.
Any comment on that? Hello,
Dr. Vinay sir.
Vinay sir.
Vinay sir.
Yes. I mean,
So you want to comment on this?
no, I don't have any comment. on
Okay.
that. This is his observation, so let it be.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? No, there are no questions. So I'll just summarize the thing. For this 2-hour-long webinar, first of its kind, we have tried to cover almost everything as far as the capping of the hospital rates are concerned. The basic problem is that the charges, procuring charges for hospitals, they are highly irregular, not only different in the states or locations, but that they are different in any single city from one hospital to other hospital. That is a very serious issue as far as procurement is concerned. The state governments have been saying that they have capped and directed the charges for the essentials needed in the COVID management, maybe safety gear, maybe medical oxygen. But the wide experience across the country is that such cappings on the essential commodities during COVID management, they are merely on paper. The practical application of this capping of the essentials during COVID management are hardly seen. And the entire stress of this highly increased rates of oxygen, safety devices, and rest of the things, the hospitals have to undergo the brunt of this. This is very important. Lastly, the costing as far as it's concerned of the hospitals during COVID, the dynamism is definitely very important, because the requirement of the essentials during the management of the COVID, they change from patient to patient. So we need to have dynamism as far as the costing of the COVID hospitals is concerned. That is definitely necessary. But as advised by our leaders, I suggest that through IMA Hospital Board of India headquarters, we will try to start one costing mechanism nationwide, which all hospitals in the country can take advantage. We will take help of our team, which is there in the 5 states across the country, in southern India, and definitely we will try to launch this costing, which will be available for all hospitals across India through IMA Hospital Board of India headquarters. Lastly, coming to the end of this webinar, as suggested by all our learned speakers, that it is a state subject, health. Secondly, the notifications of every state, they are variable. No 2 states have got the same notifications. So it will be better that state subchapters of IMA Hospital Board of India or state branches of Indian Medical Association, we are ready to extend our support and hand-holding exercises as far as any guidelines are concerned, because myself, as well as our chairman, Dr. Sharad Agrawal, we both have been very actively involved in the fight against this capping of the hospitals. In Maharashtra state, we have been fighting in the in the High Court of Mumbai against this capping since last 1 year. In Delhi, Dr. Sharad Agrawal is very actively involved with the fight in the Delhi High Court currently, which is going on. We are following these cases. So the state leadership in any case, with the consultation with our IMA National President and Secretary General, of course, we are ready to extend any handholding support needed to our state surveillance. I think we end this webinar.
Dr. Mangesh, just
Yes,
a second before you end. Let me take this advantage of this galaxy of leaders presenting this is my humble request, which I used to say in each and every webinar of HBI. Please do start chapter in your branch, in your state, who have not started yet. Please, without membership, there is no one is going to recognize. So please start the chapter in your state, in your district branch by making 25 members. And we are there to support you. Dr. Mangesh is there. I am there. The senior leadership is there. Whenever you are in doubt, you can call us. We can guide you every time. So my humble request to everyone. Yes, Dr. Mangesh, now you can propose vote of thanks and close this meeting.
Yes, thank you. First of all, let me thank our today's guest, retired Justice and Senior Counsel, Shri Kamdar sir from Mumbai. I am very thankful to our beloved National President, Dr. Jailal sir, and our Secretary General, Dr. Jayesh Lile sir. Deep thanks to our past National President, Dr. Vinay Agrawal sir, and WMA Treasurer and past National President, Dr. Ravi Wankhedkar sir. I am thankful to our Chairman, Dr. Sharad Agrawal sir, for giving me free hand to conduct this webinar. I assure all of you that coming Friday, we will come out with the new practical topic, which will be parallel to the current situation what hospitals and doctors are going through across the country. So see you all next Friday, same time, 9 p.m. sharp. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mangesh.